أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتحدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي ينزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Welcome to this bonus episode / speech of mine to all of you on this to the Bayt al-Qaim and Bayt al-Asr family on the story of Nabi Moosa alayhi salatu wassalam. My intention when I first began this topic with all of you 2 weeks ago was to get to the point that I want to get to tonight, and that was the parting of the sea, and that was the ultimate demise of Fir'aun. I knew that I would not get to the entire story. There's still an abundant amount of information, a whole life now to be lived post Fir'aun, but I at least wanted to get to some stage, monumental stage. When I realized that I couldn't get to this lecture in my allotted 15 lectures that I was supposed to, or 16 I was supposed to give you, all of you, and I have now completed those 16 lectures for all of you. I had asked very humbly the organizers if I can go ahead and if I can provide all of you one more speech to get to this stage right here and to close out this topic properly. And alhamdulillah, they agreed, and I'm very thankful for them. Now, when they air this, I have no idea, but I did want to make sure that I fulfill the plan of mine to get to this stage, inshallah, and Allah will, inshallah, accept all of our efforts. So, previously on lessons on Nabi Moosa, we got to the stage in the story now, if you remember, where the 7 calamities had hit, the droughts, the hailstorms, the locusts, the beetles, the frogs, the blood, the plague. And after all that now, when Fir'aun realized that his city was in shambles, his control now was loosening, he decides to, now enough is enough, I'm going to kill Moosa. Brings him to his palace, about to kill the man. Then Hizqil, who is referred to in the Quran as Mu'min al Fir'aun, a believer within the ranks of Fir'aun, talks him out of it. Moosa goes back to guiding his people. Day by day, the number of people who are following Nabi Moosa is increasing now. And now Fir'aun, the way I left you guys last episode before the judgment of Imam Mujtaba was that I had said that now the hukm and command of Fir'aun was to build these towers, to build these huge outlook buildings or posts, or whatever you want to call them. And look at the way that he now manipulates his people, okay, and himself. Remember, this was the same Fir'aun I described in the previous episode. That when the drought hit and the people had threatened now to go towards other gods, he told them to go on that side of the Nile. He went on this side, went behind somewhere where he couldn't be seen, rubbed his cheek on the sand, asked God for help. Fir'aun knows, and you could tell there has been moments throughout his life now, I've been trying my best to present that there were moments that he realized that there's somebody higher than him. You can't deny that. But his ego and sometimes the advice of Haman and others around him And sometimes it points to the fact that when you have horrible people around you giving you horrible advice, it blocks all of your consciousness. That's why it's important, my young guys out there, you have the right friends around you who are what? Who are talking good things in your ears, guys. Don't underestimate, yeah, he's a good guy, he just messes up. No, not like that, okay? Now he says to his people that I want to reach the God of Musa. So I want you to build me a tower, a structure so high it gets to the skies. What does that mean? Two things. Number one is that he knows that the Lord of Musa is not attainable. But at least he'll distract himself against Musa. Look, remember, his hands have been tied since the snake incident in the day of the festival. He can't kill Musa. He can't bring himself to kill Musa. Even Hizqeel, who told him don't kill him, he was somewhat relieved. Number two was the fact that this took all of Egypt to do, to build these massive structures. And so they would be busy in building the structures and not focus on the defeat after defeat after defeat of Fir'aun at the hands of Musa. So it's a win-win. Okay? So now the entire city, Fir'aun, his people, his palace, everyone, the slaves that are left behind, they're all busy in building these massive structures. This is now the time where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives Nabi Musa the advice, take your people and leave Egypt. Go towards the east of Egypt. By the numbers we have in Bahar are 700,000 Israelites were with Musa. They were told to go quietly in the middle of the night and pack light. Just leave. And so they began to prepare for their journey. Okay? One small thing remained before they could start their journey out of Egypt, and that was the body of Nabi Yaqub. In Bahar, it's reported, it's a very famous hadith, that and why the need for that, we don't know, but it is enough to know that the direction by which Musa was traveling with his followers was towards the east, and the entire idea was that Nabi Yaqub's body was to be reunited with his people in the east of Egypt. So he was asked now to dig up the body of Yaqub and take the body with him in his journey. Musa says, I have no idea where the body is buried. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then introduces him through his various means to this very old woman. Now, I mentioned this hadith for a reason. Please follow me. Humor me for a while. You've been so patient with me for so long. This old woman now comes forward. Musa says, do you know where the body of Yaqub is buried? Nabi Yaqub. Yes, I do. Okay, can you tell me, please? We can't leave Egypt without his body. She was old, she was blind, and she couldn't walk. Okay? She says, sure, but I want 4 things from you. And then I will give you the location of Nabi Yaqub's body. Okay? Nabi Musa knows that I can't move without this. What are the 4 things that you want? Go ahead. She says, number 1, I want my youth back. I want my Jawani back. Okay. Number 2 is I want my sight back. I want to be able to see. Number 3, I want the ability to walk again. That's 3. Number 4, I want to be raised with you, Musa, on the day of judgment in Jannah. He says, what, you're asking me for Jannah? He goes, no, I don't want Jannah, she says. I don't want heaven. I want to be beside you, raised with you in heaven. Now, the way that the hadith says, Musa's looking at it like, that's a pretty heavy price you're asking. Like, that's a lot you're asking for right now. Your youth, your sight, your legs, and beside me in heaven. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Musa, grant her those du'as. They're hers. He grants her those du'as. She takes him to the body of Yaqub. They grab the body of Yaqub and they make their way out of Egypt. 700,000 people. Now, why did I mention this hadith out of the blue? Because I want all of you and myself to realize the favors upon favors upon favors that Allah has bestowed the Bani Israel tribe. When we felt like from the outsider looking at the story like they're not deserving of any of these rewards, Allah time and time again gives them ample reason to be thankful towards God. And they're not. This is nothing. You wait till we get to the sea. Watch what happens there. Watch what these guys do to Nabi Musa. So now they begin to make their way out of the city. News gets back to Fir'aun that these guys are leaving now. They're all leaving. Right? Big exodus is happening. He loses his mind. He gets every single worker off this structure project. Let's go. I need all of my army. I need all my right-hand men. I need anybody and everybody, all hands on deck. We're going to get them, and that's it. We're going to finish them off one by one. I've had enough. I'm going to destroy Moosa and his people. And they set out in the morning time. They set out now behind Nabi Moosa's movement. And so they trek along. They trek along in the middle of the night. Very, very long journey. And they finally get to the banks of the sea. And the verses I want to present to you a little bit later on, they're only about 3 or 4 verses from Surah Shu'ara, is this moment. You would think that after everything that they had experienced with Nabi Moosa, the people of the Bani Israel tribe would believe in him wholeheartedly. Now they reach the banks of this massive body of water. And they say that either way it was 13 miles in length. Okay? Now that's not a lot in terms of cars or distance of on the road, but for water, that's a pretty large body of water. Right? So from this side to the other side of the sea, 13 miles, they say, roughly 13 miles. So it's not like, Fir'aun can come around that side and intercept them. No, he had to come on only through one way. So now the members of Moosa is now the Ashab of Moosa, as the Quran refers to them, and we'll get to that in a moment. They say, oh great. Behind us is Fir'aun's people. In front of us is this large body of water. We're doomed. We're stuck. Now what do we do? Moosa says, no, we're not stuck. And when I get to the verses, I really want to come across to you the beautiful moment of certainty that Moosa has with his Lord. This, again, chills I have when I hear about these verses. He says there's no way that God will not find a way for me. Okay? God looks up to Allah, all right? Now what? He says, tell them to walk on the water. I will. He says, and again, this is in Bahar now. I have the sources whenever you guys want them. Tell them to invoke the name of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And we will make the water just like a dry road. They can walk on the water to the other side of the sea. Moosa tells them that. They said, what? That's your plan? Your plan is for us to call this random prophet of yours that we've never met, and that all of a sudden this water becomes this dry road? They refused. Maybe one individual we have in Bahar, Joshua the son of Nun. Okay, I forget the Arabic. I think it's Qarib ibn Hunan or something like that. He believed in Moosa wholeheartedly. He actually does it. He actually now says, if you're telling me to take the name of this prophet who's about to come, named Muhammad, and his family, I'm going to do that. He does that. He begins to walk in front of the Bani Israel tribe. They're watching this man walk on water, just like Moosa said. And Moosa says, now go. Everybody go. Like, no, we're not going. What do I do? Again, the verse of the Quran. Allah says to Moosa, what? Take your staff and strike it in the sea. He walks a little bit to the sea, strikes the staff, it opens up, it parts. And the way that the Quran describes the way it parts, 2 massive like cliff edges, stories high. The water completely opens, and in between now creates this pathway. 13 miles long now, mind you. It's a long pathway. And it's open for them. Now Moosa says, now let's go. And they still refuse. Why? What's the problem now? We might get wet. It's wet there. We might get our feet wet. We might get our feet wet, they're saying. Moosa says, okay, turns to Allah. Allah brings this massive wind to dry the wetness. Now it becomes like a dry road on water on each side. Now, he goes, now let's go. They still refuse. Now what's the problem? He says there's 12, they say there's 12 tribes represented here. We are the sons of 12 brothers. We're afraid that one tribe might reach the shore on that side before us and create this animosity between us. So what do you want? We want 12 different pathways in the middle of this sea so all of us move together in one fluid motion. Musa says, okay. Looks to Allah. Allah says, hit the sea 11 more times. He takes his staff, hits the sea 11 more times. 11 different pathways now are parted and created out of this sea. Each of them now on each other side is water. Pathway, water, pathway, water. Pathway, water, pathway, water. Such that it's so high you can't see either pathway. He says, now each of you, all your tribes, now go one by one. They still refuse. Now what's the problem? They said, well, we have a bond with the tribes. Right now, I can only see my tribes. I can't see the other tribe because this water is there. What if they don't make it? I mean, we're not enemies. He says, okay. Allah says to Musa now, strike your staff, east to west. He strikes his staff east to west. What ends up happening? There's bridges now. Can you imagine this massive, we always believed there's only one pathway. There wasn't. There were 12 different pathways created in the sea, and they were all connected such that, you could see each other as you're crossing, and now they finally begin to enter the sea. And the only reason why they enter the sea is because they hear the thundering sounds of Fir'aun's men coming. Musa says to Harun, you go and you lead them to the end. I'm going to go last. Musa waits till the very last person enters the sea, and they begin to walk, and they begin to cross. And when Musa reaches halfway through, Fir'aun now enters the shore of the sea. He comes to 12 different pathways that have been separated in the water. Each pathway is protected by this large, huge structure of water. It's like driving through driving through a road where there's mountain on each side, as high as at the edge of the mountain, right? So you're driving between there and there's edges on each side. Imagine 12 of them, but such that you can see the other roads. If I can create that picture properly. Everyone's looking at Fir'aun like what is this? And Fir'aun does his level best to keep things calm. He was a master at that. He says, oh, this is the power that I have done. The sea, I told you, right? The sea is in my hands. I'm the one that has done this. He can see now, Musa, the last one now, halfway down the sea. He says, let's go. Everyone, let's go. Nobody wishes to enter this water. This is unheard of, unprecedented. It's unknown. We're not going to do it. Nobody, not one person of Fir'aun's secret agents, his army, the slaves, anybody did. So Fir'aun says, you know what? I will do it. Grabs his horse and makes his way into the sea. And they follow. And they follow and they follow and they follow. Now, there's some reports about defectors, people who left Musa's army, knowing full well that, once they saw Fir'aun's rage and they found out that Fir'aun's going to come and kill them, they went back to Egypt and resubmitted to Fir'aun and said, look, we're not with Musa, we're with you. There were some people who were right now in the middle of the sea, and they realized that they want to turn back to Egypt, but apparently their horse wouldn't let them go back because now they made their choice. Now they have to suffer the consequences. They're crossing through the sea. Musa, now the last one of the 700,000, reaches the shore on the other side. He looks behind and he ensures and he waits and he waits. It's a long journey. He waits until all of the Israelites who are now looking at Fir'aun and his men, they can all see Fir'aun very clearly. At that moment, he takes the staff and he strikes it again on the sea. And just like, mountains that crumble during an earthquake, the water now crashes onto each path. And from each side now, can you imagine 12 different paths, a huge height of water crashing down. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He begins the crashing of the water from the back. So Fir'aun now has no idea what's happening. He's marching. His eyes are fixated on Musa. I'm going to kill this guy. I'm going to kill this man. He hears the screaming and the agony and the pain from behind. He looks behind him. He sees water crashing, and it's getting closer and closer to him. He looks at them. He looks at Musa, and that's when he declares, I believe in the Lord of Musa and Harun. I submit to the one that Musa submits to. And a voice could be heard. Some say it was Musa. Some say it was Jibra'il. That what? Now? You've had all this time now to submit to God. Now when death is right in front of you, you submit, it's too late. Your tawbah, your repentance is not accepted at that moment. Remember that moment. Remember that moment, that Musa's dua now. When Fir'aun was about to kill him and his skill stopped him, that dua of Musa, the Quranic dua is, Allah, do not let them see their arrogant ways until they see the painful chastisement in front of their eyes. Fir'aun is watching this scene now, and nobody, violent waters come crashing down in the middle of a very deep, deep sea. No sort of means of surviving. The water's crashing, getting closer to him, and of course it engulfs Fir'aun. And the Israelites are watching all this. The water comes crashing down. Within minutes now, the books say, the water then became completely calm and serene. Like nothing happened. No sign of one person, one Egyptian that accompanied Fir'aun. No sign of Fir'aun. Musa turns back to his people, says, you should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He freed you from the clutches of Fir'aun. Look at the mentality of a Muslim sometimes. A mentality the mentality of a victim of oppression. They wouldn't believe Musa that Fir'aun was dead. No. You think he's dead. People like Fir'aun don't die. He's survived this. He's going to come back and haunt us. Allah then asks Allah, make it clear to them that Fir'aun has now left this world. The body of Fir'aun. And by the way, he was draped and drenched from head to toe in gold. Heavy, heavy, heavy clothing, such that his body sank. Allah made his body float to the top, and they made it come to the shore of where the Israelites are. Musa says, come here and examine for yourself. This is the body of Fir'aun. They all examine the body of Fir'aun and they sigh a sigh of relief. Fir'aun now has left this world and they make their way towards their destination. Now what happens after that, I'll leave up to all of you. This is where I wanted to take all of you in this journey. I have some closing remarks for all of you and then iltimas to do it, then you are free of me for the rest of the month of Ramadan. This is the first time I have attempted this topic like this. Okay. And I mentioned to you in the very first day why I did it. And I am very thankful to all of you that you have gone and traveled with me on this journey through the Quran in Nabi Moosa's story. And the feedback, the comments from literally every corner of the globe about this story has been incredible. I'm very humbled by your comments. I'm very thankful that all of you allowed me the opportunity. I think I learned more than anybody else. Hopefully you can tell that I was emotionally invested in this story, and I still am. I plan to finish it with my family afterwards. So I want to thank you for all. I want to thank all of you for your commitment. Many of you shared stories and even pictures of you sitting in your home, surrounded by your kids, in front of the TV, and watching this story unfold. And that's so inspiring for someone like me. But the one thing I wanted to mention to all of you, and then I'm done. That is that this is not a fictitious story. This is not some screenplay of a Hollywood movie. It's not some new episode or new show on Netflix. These are the words of God. This is a story of God. And these are people who existed and were real. And the whole premise behind stories like these inside this book of Allah is for guidance. Hudallin nas is for guidance. And while we were able to kind of get wrapped up in the characters in the story, from the mother of Musa to the sister of Musa, to Asiya to Fir'aun, to Musa to Hiskil, to Harun to Shuaib's daughters, everything. I want all of you and myself to realize that every individual that was part of this story, they all exist inside of you. There's a Musa inside of you, a Fir'aun inside of you, a Harun and a Asiya inside of you. There's a Hizqil inside of you. There's a Nabi Shuaib and his daughters inside of you. And there is the mother of Musa inside all of you. There are those who believe. There are those who are skeptical. There are those who are thankful. There are those who are ungrateful. All of these individuals, whether by name or by characteristic, all of them exist inside of all of us. That's why we are the most complex creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You've seen the end result of those depending on which character you followed. You saw the result of Hizqil. You saw the result of Fir'aun. You saw the end result of that young man with that yellow cow. And now it's a matter of us taking this story and knowing that whoever we allow to lead inside of us, whether we become that youth and get gifted the yellow cow, or we become Fir'aun and ultimately face our demise, or we become Musa and go through tragedy to get to triumph. Whatever the case may be, know that all of this was meant to help us grow as people, to help us find our Musa so we can destroy our as your brother and as your son, to think about what has been said. Ponder on this story. It's online. It's available for all of you. If you want the verses I use, I have them all recorded. I can simply send you the Word document, no problem. But more importantly, ask you and ask your families, who were we in the story of Musa? And who do we want to become? And how can we conquer it? Because these are all stories that will repeat themselves over and over again, right? And the ending of Fir'aun of that time will be the same ending of Fir'aun that we've seen before, right? Where are the Saddams and where are the Osama bin Ladens and where are all these Baghdadis, all these individuals, right? And where are the Musas of today, of yesterday? Where are the Musas of today? Etc., etc. So I humbly ask you to ponder. And as my last advice to the fathers and husbands and the leaders of the homes, whether you could be a grandfather, you could be a grandparent, or you could be a single mother. Continue this story with Nabi Musa. Get them to the end. There's still a long way to go and many, many lessons in between. But inshallah, we ask Allah to accept our efforts. We ask Allah to help us understand this story, inshallah, and to be better people through this story. Thank you for allowing me inside of your homes. May Allah bless you for the rest of the month of Ramadan. And please, remember me and my family in your du'as. Thank you for your patience. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.